Well, it's Alex yet.
Maybe that's his iPhone.
Could be. Alex, is that you on the phone? iPhone?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, I'm
All right.
dialing in. Yep.
Well then, Jamie, if we can call to order, and then I can give my
Okay.
little Zoom spiel if you don't mind.
Sure. Alex, will we at some point see your picture, do you think?
I can turn it on. I will. So I am working nights this week, so I am in my vehicle as we speak. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, that you don't need to leave it on. I don't know. It would be somebody might have stolen your phone, and it might have been somebody else. What are you doing? Traffic cans?
Nope. I'm at Logan Airport.
Oh, wow. Okay. Are you out on the air side?
I am. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've been out there a couple times. It's interesting. Anyway, calling the meeting to order of the Reading Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, September 14th, being 7:01, the meeting's called to order. We have present a quorum of the entire zoning board is present at this meeting. It's being held on Zoom in accordance and compliance with the recently renewed legislation allowing public and held remotely. Have I missed anything, Andrew?
I would just add that I'm Andrew McNichol, staff planner, and with me from staff is Building Commissioner Brett Bennett. And then the meeting is being recorded and broadcasted by RCTV. We do ask that you mute yourselves if you aren't presently speaking, and we will stick to our normal format of the applicant will give the board a presentation. The board will ask questions themselves for detail and then open up to public comment. And when you're acknowledged by the chair or by raising your hand, either on video or the raise hand feature, then you can unmute yourself and provide your comments. So yeah, other than that, I think you captured it all, Jamie, and we're ready to roll.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is a public hearing or continuation. Case 21-11, which is 9 Priscilla Road in Reading. And this public hearing is being held remotely and online on this Tuesday, the 14th of September, on the application of Lisa and Rob Gibbs pursuant to Mass General Law 48, paragraph 9 for a special permit under zoning bylaw sections 5.3.2, 5.4.7, 7.0, 7.3, 7.3.2, and this is to construct a 1 to 2 story addition. I think that means to make a 1-story, a 2-story addition that includes an accessory apartment on an existing non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot with a General Law, Chapter 48, paragraph 10, and from a variance from section 5.4, 7.3 to allow the apartment gross square footage of 726 square feet, where 610 square feet is allowed based on the existing dwelling site, and that's as it is right now on the property located at 9 Priscilla Road in Reading, Massachusetts. And unless there's an objection, we will, as we did with the original hearing, dispense with the abutters list, which is attached to the application, but the notice has been sent to the usual list of suspects, including the select board, police department, building department, fire, assessor's office, CPDC, members of the board, the town clerk, as well as the planning boards of our neighbors, Wakefield, North Reading, Woburn, Linfield, Stoneham, and Wilmington. Now, I would ask that anyone that plans to speak, and even if you swore to tell the truth several weeks ago at the original hearing, I ask that you swear to tell the truth again by responding to the following statement with the confirmation of I do. And that statement is, oh, raise your right hand as you respond, I do. I swear that the testimony given by me before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay. Thank you. And with that, as Andrew we'll ask the applicant and or their representatives to present the project to the board and to the public with emphasis on changes from when this was originally presented back in August.
Thank you, Jamie. I'm Nancy Toomey. I'm the architect that's helping Mr. and Mrs. Gibbs on this particular project. And Andrew, can I share my screen? Is that?
Yes, you should be able to.
Okay, let me share that. Start here. All right, this is the house at 9 Priscilla Road. Just to remind everybody what it looks like. We're asking to remove this structure and to add extend it and add a second floor over it and to extend at the back. I'll go through the changes that orient ourselves. The primary changes are in regard to moving this back addition over to be about 10 feet from the side yard property line. Originally, we had it closer. I believe it was 8 feet. The other major change is that the second floor over the side addition to the main house has been limited to over the existing footprint of the garage, as well as at the back, a small addition that is more than 15 feet from the side yard. This plan also includes the proposed pool, and I want to just point out how we're trying to get this in addition to this addition. And I pointed out because I want you to understand how tight what the limits might be. We have to be 10 feet away by the zoning bylaw from the proposed pool because it will be within the setback. And we need to be 10 feet away from whatever other additional structures they may want to put in that are also within the setback. Let me go to the plans. This is, of course, the existing. I will move quickly to the first floor. On this set, you can see that the first floor is similar, or I believe pretty much the same as the first proposal. It contains the bathroom and the bedroom for the apartment and a common entrance that takes us back to the main entrance of the apartment. The main change here, as I mentioned, was that we moved this addition over in order to preserve the window in the kitchen and limit cost for the changes that need to be made to the existing structure. We have lengthened the addition by 2 feet. We've narrowed the addition, and then we've opened it up a little bit here to be able to get some light and connection through. On the second floor, which is probably the bigger change, that's the foundation. Second floor, the master bedroom has been brought back. The extra 3, I think we had it 1 foot overhang, so it's a 4 foot difference from before. It sits back. We have had to add then a closet in at the back since we no longer were forward enough to be able to grab this little bedroom to make it into a walk-in closet. And as I said, this closet sits more than the 15-foot setback from the side. And it's a fairly small addition just to accommodate that closet. From a visual roof over the front entrance or the side entrance and the front bedroom. The side steps back, as you can see. We've limited all of the windows on the second floor to just a small high window over the bed, similar to the one we had proposed over the bed on the first floor. And then the other two windows, one is at the kitchen sink, one is at the bathroom, sorry. And then at the back, you can see how this little structure sits in the middle of the main structure. And that's what gets us the ability to move it back. And the window for the bathroom is at the back instead of on the side. And then finally, on the other side, there's a small window in the closet. That's the door that gets us into that common hallway. And then this is the apartment. All right, so moving on. I wanted to, a couple of things I wanted to make sure that we talked about. I understand in the way the bylaws read that we have to show that what we are doing is not going to be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming building or structure. So I took some time to investigate some of the houses in the neighborhood that are similar in scope and also have received special permits in order to do something very similar. So the first one I wanted to point out is this is the black circle is where the house that we're talking about, 9 Priscilla Road. This house at lot 28, it's actually 34 Puritan Road, was a small cape with a non-conforming existing side structure. It was also non-conforming on. Of this did was asked for it to be removed and received special permits to maintain the 10-foot or so setbacks on both sides. So this is what is there now, just to kind of give you an idea of what the change is. And that's right around the corner. On next door, I wanted to just point out that the original structure was very similar to the Gibbs house, and that it too was non-conforming at the time. The owners removed that structure and did build a conforming structure. They could have asked for relief, but they didn't. They did build that structure as it was. And I was able to grab it's very hard to see, but you can sort of see the small side yard non-conforming structure. And then it too was rebuilt to be a moving further along. This one is on Harvard Street. Let me show you the location. Harvard Street is right here and still in the neighborhood, but to the side. And it, let's go back. Whoops, sorry. One more. It received, believe it or not, or a variance, which is very difficult to get in this town. But this was back in 1986. They received a variance to add on, remove the one-car detached structure and add on a side addition. And that side addition looks like this. It does have an overhang. It's about 10 feet from the property line. And then finally, this one is located Longfellow Road. Let me show you that one. So that one is up here on this street. They also received recently, this one was in 2018, to build, to take down an attached small single-story garage, and received a special permit to build a 2-story structure with an overhang in the same location. All right.
Nancy, excuse me, what's the side setback on that last one?
On this particular one?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't, if you bear with me for a moment, I can take a quick look.
Did it require a variance or special permit?
It required a special permit, yes.
So
This
it's
required is-
less than 15 feet.
Correct. Yeah, it may be 10, it might even be 8. I'm not quite sure about
Okay,
that. I think-
that's good enough. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. So to sum that up, neighborhood, and I'm emphasizing the neighborhood, has had special permits issued for structures that are similar to what we're asking, in that it's a 2-story structure where it used to be a 1-story structure. Now, moving on, the other part to this is asking for a special permit to put an accessory apartment in the first floor. One of the things that came up when this was presented to Mr. Redmond, the former building commissioner, he has interpreted this bylaw, the accessory bylaw, to mean, and it's really item B. And I sent a memo around as a rebuttal to what I feel very strongly says that it's not, that he, the main piece to this is item B under the performance standards. This is the bylaws. And on this, it has the definition of principal single-family dwelling on the lot. And it's the on the lot where Mr. Redmond is interpreting that to be on the lot as of the day of the permit versus on the lot once the permit has been completed. Hopefully you were able to read what I had written, but I'll go over it again just to make sure that it's clear. And I do know that a vote needs to be had about whether that variance is a requirement or whether you can deem that it isn't necessary and would overturn his requirement for a variance. Some of the things that I would look at what the accessory apartment rules are in terms of how to get a permit for this. It says clearly that if it is within the principal dwelling and no addition to the gross floor area, that it is allowed by right. Then it goes on to say that it needs an addition, let's see, within an existing accessory building, which we are not, we are attached, and then also a new structure or addition to gross floor area of existing structure, it needs a special permit. So in looking at this, you know, there is another way to accomplish this, and that leads me to believe that this really should be interpreted a little bit differently, and that is, there is no limit there that we couldn't build this addition as an addition, simply as additional square footage for the main house after it is needed, and then ask for a special permit to change it. We don't need a special permit at that point to change it into an accessory apartment. So it's a 2-permit process, and I don't think that was the intent of town meeting at the time this was passed. There are no limits on when the floor area can be added to this house. So to force a owner to go to a 2-permit process just seems crazy and doesn't really give the neighborhood a chance to understand what it is that they are doing, because they wouldn't need to come back to the zoning board to get that special permit. That's number one. Number two, I think in the realm of things, what it's really saying is if this is the limit, and if it were such that you couldn't add on that square footage, the only way to do this is if you have an accessory apartment. And that just, in my mind, is counter to what the intent of this bylaw is. And that is to provide additional housing types for those in the town of Reading. I think I have also spent some time in, if you do decide that there's a variance that is necessary, I would hope that you'll let me address that process at that time. But at this point, I think I have everything I need. If there's any questions, please ask.
But before before we go to questions, does the applicant or another representative of the applicant wish to speak? So I for an application.
Good evening, Chair. I'm here on behalf of the direct abutter, Jay and Dina Tangnay.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you then. I will, Mr. and Ms. Gibbs, you have nothing to add to what Ms. Tomei said?
No, I don't think we have anything to add at this time.
Okay. But Brett, do you have anything to add at this point?
No, not much. I mean, she pretty much explained everything. We're just here because there were some changes made. Also, I mean, I think with the variance being addressed in the denial letter, I think there was also an interpretation that if the special permit wasn't granted and they were still going to proceed with the accessory apartment, that a variance, they would need a variance. Everything, and that's about it.
Okay. With that, then, if you do have something to add as we move through, please just let me know and feel free. But with that, I'll turn it over to the other board members. Alex, is this a good time for you? Would you like to ask any questions at this point?
Sure. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Thanks for the explanation, Nancy. Very thorough. I guess as it relates to the calculations for the 1/3 gross area, I disagree somewhat in the methodology used in the attachment with the application for the title of Gibbs with 82321 apartment square footage. Going back and forth with the bylaw, apartment would be included in that calculation, just by definition that it is a accessory apartment and not the primary dwelling. So therefore, its square footage would not be included in the primary dwelling. And then regarding the comment about the two permit process, reading the requirements in the bylaws, I think it was performance standard A talks about interior changes requiring a special permit when an accessory apartment is created. So in the scenario of someone just building an open space addition, walking away apartment, I believe that they would have to come back for a special permit under section A there. So that would cover, keeping the neighborhood informed of what's going on. So yeah, I'm not sure. I forget last time what our course of action is going to be regarding a vote on the variance or special permit. But again, my interpretation was that this would be a variance case.
Okay. Anything else, Alex?
Nope.
Nope.
That's it for now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Cindy, do you have any thoughts or questions or comments?
My issue are the same as Alex's. I do not agree with Nancy's interpretation. I do think that this would be a variance situation. I agree that it could be interpreted either way. Probably a lawyer could interpret it either way. But I do think the more reasonable interpretation is the interpretation that the town had from the beginning and that Alex has now.
Any other thoughts on the changes or anything?
Well, the changes I went to inspect, to have a site visit over the weekend. And, certainly I do appreciate the change that was made. I mean, basically it and, certainly a lot of effort went into making that change. I mean, I think I'm not settled yet on the way I feel about it. I'd like to hear from the abutter. I know has something to say too. And I'll continue to listen.
Okay. Thank you. And Hillary.
So this is, I think, my 3rd year on the zoning board, and this not exact issue, but issue of the accessory apartment and how to calculate it, either a variance or special permit, has come up a couple times since I've been on the board, and that it would be a special permit, but that is obviously open to interpretation with the rest of the board here. So I am of the opinion that it would be a special permit, but we'll work that through, I guess, as we hear more about the changes that were made. I was unable to make a site visit, but I have passed this house many times as I take walks, and I would like to hear more about what the abutters and their opinions on the changes.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for your historical perspective. And I'll add that I was on town meeting when we wrote this bylaw for accessory apartments, and an amendment was proposed to do contrary to what we currently have. In essence, that amendment was to say it couldn't be more than a third of the square feet of the building as of a certain date, which was at the passage of the bylaw, which was 2 or 3 years ago. That amendment was defeated, and it was pointed out that in people trying to pass the amendment to set this square footage at the date of the passage of the bylaw, that somebody could just keep building it bigger, and a third would always be bigger, which is a true statement. And decided they didn't care about that. They wanted the square foot, the third, the calculation of the allowable size of the apartment to be 1,000 square feet, or a third of the size of the building at any point in time. No point in the past. So given that, plus
Jamie, including the future, including after the work was done?
Yes, exactly. After the work was done. And the counter argument to passing that amendment was, well, we have 1,000 square feet, so it can never go above that. So although my house is much smaller, they were saying, well, 3,000 square feet, a third of the normal size house is that square feet, and that's the limit. So if somebody wants to build bigger than that, they still can't take more than a third. That the 1,000 was the bottom line. They could never go above that. And town meeting, although there was significant opposition, town meeting still passed that it would be a third of the size of the building going into the future.
Okay, then I'm going to change my mind on the record here, given what Jamie just said, and given Hillary's statement that this has been interpreted by the ZBA as a special permit in the past, which I was not aware of, because this is only my second year on the ZBA. I'm going to change my mind and say special permit.
I would just like to
Sorry, Alex.
interject. Jamie, I went through the town meeting minutes and warrants of all the ADU proposed amendments and bylaw amendments, and anything within the minutes on that. I don't know if you're confusing it with footnote 1, which was a similar style that there was a proposal to limit it to a certain date.
Right.
And that I don't think was passed either.
It
But
wasn't,
footnote
no.
1 does have size limitations and a date to claw back to. So I just never found, that doesn't mean it didn't happen, that conversation did not happen. I just could not find it within the warrants or the minutes or anything like that. So
Yeah, it was proposed on the floor.
The previous interpretations by this board is more convincing to me anyway.
yes, I agree with that.
So I'll stick to my decision on that anyway.
Just a couple of other board members. I appreciate the changes that were made, and I want to hear how the reaction from the abutters and the neighbors. I do also want to say that the pointing out of 2 or 3 or 4 properties in the neighborhood with similar situations does establish some precedent that I would pay attention to when I made my final decision. But I will hold that till I hear what the abutters and their representatives have to say. So with that, if the board members have nothing else to add or say at this time, I will open the floor to the public. I would raise your hand, either Andrew or I will recognize you.
Jamie, I just want to, I guess, state similar to what was just said, given the past rulings of the board. Obviously, I was not a member at that time, so I was unaware of that precedent that had been set. So if that's what has been done in the past, that this would be considered a special permit case, then I would change my feelings on that.
Okay, thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. Okay, I don't yet see any hands, but I'm sure we have good participation here. Any? Oh, I did see a hand quickly. Was that you, Mr. Johnson, that raised your hand?
Mr. Latham, I think has his hand raised.
Good. Sorry, I'm on my phone, and I think I may have clapped by mistake.
Yes. Oh no, so. I see it. You raised your hand. Please go ahead. And what happened to your beard?
Oh, I'm actually at reserve duty for 2 weeks, so I'm doing this call in from a hotel room down in Norfolk, Virginia. So I apologize if you can't hear me very well and you have a strange background here.
Okay, please go ahead.
All right. Well, good evening. I'm Attorney Josh Latham here tonight on behalf of Jay and Dina Tangnay. They're the direct abutters at 15 Priscilla Road. We've previously submitted written opposition, and we did speak at the last public hearing an objection. So I won't belabor those points for the board in the interest of efficiency and time. However, to reiterate some of the points tonight, to start with, none of this objection is personal. You know, my clients didn't want to be in the position to have to object, but certainly they have, you know, property interests that they do want to assert tonight. The bottom do not make any meaningful change. The nature of the project remains the same. And to summarize that very quickly, what is currently a single-story uninhabited garage that encroaches about 6 to 7 feet from the property line is contemplated to be turned into a 2.5-story addition of livable space that extends what's currently 20 feet. It's going to end up being 47 feet, all within that setback. it takes 0 living space within that setback and creates over 500 square feet of new living space within that setback. The current height of that garage, I don't think it's shown on the plan submitted, but let's assume it's 10, 11 feet. What's proposed is going to be, I believe, what's about 25 to 30 feet. It's hard for me to tell from the plans. It's not shown exactly. As a result of all these changes, really, the proposal doesn't out tonight. I would object to really at least 2 of those 3. The first one actually supports my client's argument. It's his own home. He tore down his home and complies with all current setbacks. That's exactly what the town anticipates to happen when you're going to do a substantial change in use, a substantial expansion or extension of use. Likewise, the property on the other side, 2 lots up at 23 Priscilla, was torn down and rebuilt in compliance with all conforming setbacks. So really, the most immediate direct neighborhood examples are meeting the setback requirements. The property at Puritan, where there was an addition over the garage. Now, granted, I don't have any of the background on these files, but just in looking at the picture, that garage abutted another garage. It didn't abut direct livable space of the abutter's home. And then further, the property at Harvard Street, I just don't have the details, but this is a somewhat contained neighborhood. As you pull off of Lowell Street, it's a series of internal streets. The most direct example is my client's own home, and it really doesn't support the applicant's argument here. So I think it's very hard to say that this proposal is something that's consistent with this neighborhood. Likewise, really, setbacks are important. I know I've said it before, they're there for a reason. And they're meant to prevent overcrowding of land. They're meant to prevent massing of homes too close to setbacks. My client meets the setbacks on purpose. And to allow this garage to be the pretext to then create entirely new living space, essentially a huge addition on the existing home that almost doubles the size of the home, that's not what this special permit was intended for. The board is faced with having to make 2 judgments. The first is the proposal an extension of a nonconformity? Well, I think that's a very simple yes. There's no in these ways is an extension of a nonconformity. It's not just an extension of a nonconformity of dimensions. It's changing unlivable space to a much greater portion of livable space within that setback. So the nature of the change also matters. The second argument that the board has to reach a judgment on is whether this proposed extension is substantially detrimental to the neighborhood. Well, to the first point, I don't believe any other homes really have violated the setbacks in this same way in this neighborhood. And to the second point, my client is the most direct abutter. He's going to have a massed new addition overlooking his backyard, extending 47 feet within the setback. He is directly harmed by this. Unlike the case that Nancy had cited last time, I believe it was on Harrison Street or Harrison Ave in 2010, that case had when the board passed that special permit. In this case, we have not heard of a single abutter who supports this. And with that, I'll close for tonight and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Latham. Other neighbors or members of the public that would like to speak or add comments?
Not seeing any hands raised.
No, nor do I. Okay, so we do have a number of issues we have to decide here. One is if the accessory apartment, it requires a special permit or variance. And the other is not issue a special permit for the extension of the increase in the existing nonconformity. Would you agree with that, Andrew, that they're the 2 things that we initially have to decide?
Yes, I would agree. I think the first one can be a finding of whether variances or special permits are appropriate in this case, and then whatever you decide for the next part.
Okay. Let's take the first one, the finding for whether or not a variance or special permit is required first. So I would entertain a motion from one of the board members that our finding is that you pick either a variance or a special permit is the appropriate action here. Whoever would like to make that motion can phrase it either way.
Accessory apartments as part of the addition proposed here. Do I need to go through the whole description and everything for this motion?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Just
Okay, I'll just make a motion then that this accessory apartment would require a special permit as opposed to a variance.
okay. Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, and Hillary seconds. Any further discussion? So if this, I'll just point out and that if this passes, then we would still have to vote on whether or not to issue that special permit. So with no further discussion, all in favor of the motion of the finding that it's a special permit rather than variance, please. We'll go with Hillary.
Yes.
Cindy
Yes.
and Alex.
Yes.
And I vote yes also. Okay, so the next item, I think, to discuss whether or not a special permit to expand or the non-conforming use by the structure which infringes on the side setback, whether or not to issue that special permit. So I hear a motion to that effect. Cindy or Alex or Hillary?
Um,
I think we
Hillary, you
have-
want to do this one?
Well, saying
First.
I think, maybe there's Mr. Latham has opened some questions that I don't know that we have discussed.
Okay, sure. We can discuss it now or after the motion as you wish.
So, well, usually we discuss, I thought we would discuss it first and then the applicant has a choice, right? If
Sure.
we vote
Right.
on it or not.
Right.
So, I don't know that I have a direct question. I feel a little confused as we have one strong objection and we have one proposal and no other support from the neighborhood. Are there other support? Have we received anything in writing from any of the other? Received any other objections?
I haven't seen any. Andrew, have you? It's just the one letter and then the submittal from his representative.
Yes, that's correct. I haven't received any letters of support, just the memos from the applicant.
But no other abutters or neighbors have issued opinions in support or in opposition.
No, nor in opposition. Sorry, I should clarify.
Well,
Can I add something to that fact?
I'm sorry, I didn't see who that was. Who is?
It's Rob Gibbs.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Yes, we did speak.
Oh, I see. Okay.
We did speak to our abutters, the halls from the other side of our house. They were an absolute 100% support of our plans that we proposed to them. They are not on here tonight. They were on last week. And we didn't know, in August, we didn't know that we need to line people up for support of the proposal.
Okay, thank you for that. I was just going to say, Hillary, while you're thinking of what else you
Yeah, is
might
it-
want to add, I think
Sure,
the
Alex, have anything else?
the Gibbs and Mr. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I see a hand raised, I think. Ms.
Hi,
Anthony.
I'm Dina Tangney. How are you?
Good.
I have shown that there was a poll posted at the end of where the before they moved it over 2 feet and back 2 feet. I had in my yard, like neighbors around the neighborhood, and they were actually surprised at how it would block the entire viewing from our backyard over, like we would look up into a structure rather than right now we see like the neighbors 3 houses down. And then the one neighbor at the very end of the street said that she can actually see our TV and mentioned when the structure goes up, she's like, unfortunately, I won't see any of that view. So I'm just throwing that out, that I have talked to some neighbors that have sat in my backyard and were shocked that that was even a consideration.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, Hillary, I don't know if you're ready to talk yet. I'll just comment. I mean, I'm really there as I was the other day. I was struck by, I mean, the yard seems large, and open and spacious. And I see now, from the I realize, looking again at the new plan where the proposed pool is written in now with the hot tub and everything, and you see how that large yard is filled up pretty quickly. But I know what the Gibbs family is trying to accomplish here in terms of housing, their daughter and everything. And I'm just not completely convinced that the only way to do that is by I realize the goals of keeping the bay window, not having to move the kitchen around, saving money, this, that, and everything, yet you're putting in a new pool. You're, doing a lot of changes, and also overburdening the nonconformity. And that's where I'm struggling. And I don't know if Nancy, you could speak to that a little bit more, perhaps. Why is this the best way or the only way?
Yeah, I'd be happy to speak to that. I think that if you look at moving this to be 15 feet from the side yard, we'd have to put all of the apartment, because there's not enough room then for that bedroom and bathroom. All of the apartment would have to be then behind the house. Mm-hmm. So, and sure, if it's at 15 feet, is still going to be 2 stories in order to meet the requirements. So that structure then actually, I think, is more of a block to the neighborhood because it is higher at the back to make that work. So if the Tagneys are sitting in their backyard and they want to have a view to the Gibbs backyard, which it sounds like they're asking to do, if we have a 2-story structure that is large enough to support that 700 square foot apartment, it becomes quite large to accomplish that. So I think by taking the space that they currently have in their garage and being able to better use that space for an apartment without having to recreate it at the back of the house, and still leave room for whether it's a pool, which is their dream to be able to have their children to come back and visit because there is a pool, I think is critical. And I don't know that if we move this back, we'd have to redo the kitchen. So you're talking 40 or 50,000 right there to get the right windows. I mean, it's significant. So this, I think, is the solution that allows them to do the things that they feel they need to do to make this house usable for them in the future without having to really touch anything in the main house. And that's where the dollar saving comes from. And maybe the Gibbs can add to this, but that's.
Can I ask the Tangneys to actually follow up on that? Because I mean, I think that, you know, what Nancy points out is right. If they were to just build directly behind, they would be within the setbacks. They would be the side lots, but it might be taller. It might go further back. It might result in just as much of a blocking of your view as what they're proposing, or potentially even more, would cost them a lot more money and wouldn't require coming through the ZBA. You know, what would you have to say to that?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Well, I guess maybe the technical answer, and defer to Josh on this, but I guess we wouldn't have much to say as a legal matter and a technical matter. We've tried to play the cards we've been dealt on this throughout. And again, the last thing we want is, you know, a negative relationship with people who we like and respect. And that's been a constant throughout this. At the same time, the new proposal doesn't change anything from the prior proposal. And I think that's how we approach this meeting tonight. I respect the need to save money, but I do think that respecting the setbacks is critical to the neighborhood. And I do think the new proposal is detrimental to the neighborhood. And to echo what my wife Dina said, we haven't tried to build consensus against anything anyone wants to do, but we talk to people too. And I do think there are some real reservations in the neighborhood about this effort because of what the new proposal is, particularly as it goes up and back, which is very inconsistent with anything that you see in this neighborhood, notwithstanding what the other homes that we saw this evening were. So if they were to do that and go outside the setbacks, then they would be able to do that, I think, legally. And at this point, we're not there yet. And again, we respectfully don't think that this is good for the neighborhood, and certainly inconsistent with what we think is, you know, the best interest of the neighborhood. I hope that answers your question. I don't mean to give you a non-responsive answer, Ms. Hartman.
No, it does. Thank you.
Well, just to follow up on that a bit, if I could, if they did move the entire structure and to the back and achieve the 15-foot setback, and it was larger and higher, as Ms. Tomei has pointed out, would you feel that was less or more intrusive on your lot, and less or more consistent with the neighborhood to have a larger building in the back?
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Chairman, respectfully, I don't know. I think my knee-jerk reaction, and my wife has grabbed just based on the setbacks, because the setbacks are fairly oppressive if you come and stand in our backyard or in our dining room. So the knee-jerk reaction is it would be less oppressive, but of course the devil's in the details, and maybe I'll live to regret those words. I just don't know. Again, I think the setbacks are there for a reason, to keep things consistent in the neighborhood. And Dina, go ahead.
Just based on where that post was set when they were doing a meeting beforehand, based on where that post was set, if you are in our backyard sitting where that post was set, it was almost like right upon you. So if you moved back within the setbacks, I think it would be still way open. Right now, where it was set, it's like right upon you. So when and the only way to and see where that post was and what you'd be looking at,
And how high?
and how high it was, which the post wasn't even as high. I think it was like 9 feet plus 6 feet. So I think the only way to actually visualize it was to be sitting in our backyard looking to see what we would be watching. If it was within the setbacks and 15 feet further in and further out, I think it would still be out, because I think the halls are like that 2 doors down next to the Gibbs on the right side of the Gibbs. I think the halls are like their addition is kind of like that. So I think the only way to actually visualize it is to be in our backyard.
Yeah. Thank you. I think Hillary, anything?
No, this is very enlightening. It's still, like Cindy said, it's an extremely difficult position to be in.
Yeah, I was going to give my thoughts. I feel, again, the changes that were made, we were uncomfortable, going forward with this last time, and the changes that have been made resulted in, a 2-foot increase. So now we're at 10 feet from the setback. So I guess I'm just saying I'm having a hard time supporting this at this time as currently shown. One of the issues last time was, the grading in the backyard with going back there, and as mentioned, adding in the pool and everything, that's all the same grading impacts that were kind of pointed out to build back there. So that's it.
And I'll add my thoughts. This is a hard one, and I'm of 2 minds. One is that the setback now with the change is 10 feet, correct?
I'm sorry, it's 10 feet at the closest point, at
Right.
the very furthest part.
Right.
It's probably 12 feet. I think it's just 2 foot because of the angle of the property.
Right.
It gets close only at one part.
Right.
The closest point is where the garage is currently. So yeah, oh, thank you, Andrew. So this is the closest point, and that's the closest point as it is currently. It's 6.87 feet. Here, it's a 10-foot here and the property line, right? So it's 7 plus 5.
So my point is that is 10 feet as proposed from the property line.
Correct.
And if you moved it 5 feet and
That's
built
right.
it higher,
Yep.
I don't think it would be, I don't think it would be a significant improvement to the view from the neighbor's lot. 5 feet laterally and going up and going back to make a larger structure, I don't think it would be a huge improvement. So that's one thought I have. The other thought is we do have setbacks, and I'm inclined to honor those if they are thing that makes me a bit concerns me, I'll say, is that they are at least 1 or 2 examples in the immediate vicinity, if not in the exact same neighborhood, where this board or our predecessors has granted a similar variance, and taking that alone, consistency is something that's important to me. So I'm still unconvinced on either side, but I would have to say I'm leaning toward approving, just to maintain the consistency with. Yes, Ms. Tomei.
If I could also add to that, I think if the Gibbs had a ton of money. Certainly tearing the house down and making it conforming would be an ideal situation. But for the majority of homes in our, and I'm guilty of that in terms of houses that I recommend they tear down and rebuild and make sure that it's within the setbacks. I think that's a very honorable thing to do. However, in that neighborhood and in most of the neighborhoods around there, the lots are very similar. A lot of the houses were built before the zoning bylaw was issued. There are plenty of garages and structures that are closer to the side yards. It just is the way those homes were built. And who's to say that two houses down that have the same situation isn't going to come before you for special to make it into a living space and nobody objects. So I'm very uncomfortable here that we're putting a lot of weight on a neighbor who is important, but it's really should be looking at the neighborhood in general. And that's, I just wanted to say that I'm a little concerned that we're setting a precedent here that if a neighbor objects, then they rule. And I'm not sure that's how the zoning bylaws should be interpreted. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Latham, you have your hand up. Is that new or leftover?
Thank you. That's new, Mr. Chairman. So I guess if I could address a couple of points. Number one, there's no legal right to build within the setback. It's not an as of right thing. So the fact that this existing lot is small and that this is an older neighborhood with smaller homes, smaller lots, then build, living space, extending it further back where there happens to have been, a 1950s era single-story garage. That's just not what the special permit is meant for. I'm also a little concerned that I think Nancy turned the whole argument on its head. The legal standard is that the applicant bears the burden of proving why they are entitled to special zoning relief, rather than why should it be that an abutter has to prove to the board something shouldn't be built. That's an important distinction because setbacks matter. Nobody's allowed to build within a setback unless there is a legal justification and quote unquote special circumstances, a special permit or a variance that entitles them to do it because the board has determined that either special circumstances apply or something is so unique that they should be entitled to not have to comply with the law. A legal justification to say that something's so special and unique that they should be entitled to flout the law. I mean, it's just, we're setting a precedent here that I'm very worried about. And I agree, it shouldn't be a case that other people come in and if they have nobody show up in opposition, they are approved. But at the same time, when somebody truly objects and they're the most directly impacted abutter, this is a very difficult precedent to establish. And the record's going to speak for itself. And that's no further comments. Thank you.
So I have a question. I think this is more for Brett, actually. That if they were just building, over the existing garage, removing that and building up, would that require a special permit?
Yes, this is actually, was brought up due to this case. In my opinion, and we did meet internally, that this would require a special permit because you're still extending a non-conformity, in our opinion. You're extending it upwards, outwards, sideways. It's still, in my interpretation, it would still be an extension of a non-conformity.
Could I make a little comment too? If I could sort of add to that, in past, probably the two past building officials did not see it that way.
Yeah, that's correct how it was interpreted. And then, I met with Julie, Andrew, and Glenn. We all sat down and kind of hashed this out. And I know that's my feeling, and I seem to have support. And that's just my opinion, interpretation, I would say.
Okay, thank you, Brett. Yes, Ms. Gibbs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to go on record for giving the facts of why we are doing what we're doing. There seems to be some question as to how we are spending our money on and what we are not spending our money on. I will say that my husband and I are two teachers. I have recently been diagnosed with a chronic disease for which there is no cure, but there is treatment. The reason why we want to do this is because my daughter is going to require care from her brothers when she gets older. My daughter is also a competitive swimmer. Her brothers might have to, because I will not be able to care for my daughter. It could be, and who knows when that will be. We are trying to think about our future and the future of our family. So this investment in our family will allow our sons to come and move back into our home with their families in order that our daughter not be uprooted from where she works and where she lives and where everyone in this town knows her. Our daughter has Down syndrome, and an accessory apartment dwelling legislation is in front of our state legislature right now to make it important for people like us and others like us to do this for their families, to care for their loved ones. We like to do what we're doing. We do not at all want to upset anyone. We have not wanted to upset anyone at all by submitting these plans and this permit. But this is why we are asking to do what we would like to do. This is for our family. This is for our future. This is so I can rest easy. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that, Ms. Gibbs. We appreciate it. And it also brings to my mind the reason for the bylaw for the accessory apartment. Now, I know doesn't override the need for setbacks, but the reason that bylaw was passed was that Reading would like to increase the housing opportunities for existing residents without driving people out. They've grown up and lived their families and have jobs. And this was an opportunity to expand the allowable dwellings. So the accessory apartment portion of this, I think, is definitely within the intent of the bylaw. At this point, yes, did I hear?
Yep.
Alex?
Yep. So I think everyone would agree, the accessory apartment is something, great for the community, for the family and everything. But our objections seem to be around the height of it, which would, seemingly to make the improvements for that gives a son to, care for their daughter in the future. And I just have a question, if this was a single-story apartment, be lessened, and is there an opportunity to then explore ways to potentially use the finished portion of the basement or other portions of the house for their son in the future?
Ms. Tomei or the Gibbs, would you like to comment on that?
I can let the Gibbs comment on whether that's an option. I think the difficulty is, first of all, there's probably not enough headroom in the basement. We'd have to it's pretty close to the ground in terms of where the first floor is. In the back of the yard, there's a significant delta between the front of the yard and the back of the yard. It's almost 9 feet. Most of that rise is right at the back, but it moves up pretty quickly towards the back. Dramatic because we need an egress out, which they don't have right now. Actually, we have to try and put in a window well or something in order to be able to get that basement space to continue to work. So the further back we go, the more problematic that becomes. I think that from the neighbor's complaint, and they've mentioned it several times, that they don't like even the height of the single story. So I'm not sure that if we were to capture even a single story, that they would be in agreement that that's okay. But that's up to them. They can comment on that. Again, if we want to add the space they need on the second floor for a reasonable bathroom and bedroom, we have to go towards the back. That's going to be a 2-story structure no matter how you do it. And right now, the way it's designed, and I don't see why people aren't seeing this, we're capturing the second story where there already is a second story. So there aren't any that in mind. It's over a space next to a house that blocks that view. Everything else is towards the back. So I'd have to talk with the Gibbs about what a redraw would be or whether it's worth doing at that point.
I think you had a perspective that showed what you were talking about the second existing second floor. Could you share that with us again?
I certainly can. Let me go back to that. That's probably the better way to do it rather than waving my arms. So if you look at this perspective, this is the second floor, which marries the same roof line as the existing house. So the second floor is next to the existing second floor. There is a small jut out because we're not proposing now to go over and take advantage of this access to the front, which is fine. Sorry, one more. This is moved over the 2 feet. Before it was here. It's been moved over 2 feet, and the peak is now more than 15 feet. But this is what I believe the Tagneys were complaining about, was the height here, which is about 9 feet. Don't forget there's a 6-foot fence here, so we're only talking a 3-foot delta over the fence. I hope that answers. I'm sorry if it didn't.
Yes, thank you. It made clear what you were describing by the arm waving.
Yeah.
Mr. Latham, I think you had your hand up again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So just 2 quick points. We certainly appreciate and have no issue with the idea of an accessory apartment. I think it's a very forward-thinking bylaw. It makes perfect sense here. Our objection is to the way it's being proposed. Certainly, does come to facts. And with regards to the most recent comment relative to where that second floor marries to the existing roof line, there is no second floor where we're proposing to put one. Right now, it's a single-story garage, and all of that is entirely new living space within a setback. That's a big distinction.
Mr. Chairman, if I could say one thing.
Yes, please go ahead.
I just want to put this on the record. We're not complaining. We're just reacting and trying to do what we think is in the best interest of our family as well. And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. I think now we've heard a lot and a lot to think about. As I said, I'm still can feel I can see both sides, and but I'm leaning toward other board members are willing to further comment, and the reason being, if there seems to be low probability of this passing, I would give the applicant the opportunity to withdraw and reconfigure if they'd like, rather than having a vote, which would mean they could not come back before us in what, 2 years, Andrew?
If they were voted in the negative, yes.
Right. So do any other commissioners wish to comment before we do put a motion on the floor? If
I
was just going to say, if the applicant the application is before us. We'll have the public hearing. We'll close the public hearing after we finish this little piece. And then we're obligated, unless the applicant withdraws, to make a decision at this point. So I'm sorry, go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, I just, I mean, for purposes of guiding the applicant, as I said earlier, it is a very tough one, made tougher the more I hear tonight. I think I am leaning toward not approving, however, mostly because I do believe that it is the burden of the applicant to show that it is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, I don't believe that they have met that burden with this plan. And I do not believe that I would be supporting this.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. Hillary, would you, but before I do ask you, Hillary, just to remind everyone that because we're short of members on the board, it has to be, 4 people have to vote in the positive for this to pass. And since we only have 4 members on the board, it would have to be unanimous. So I'm sorry, go ahead, Hillary.
So I am leaning toward a support of this proposal and granting of the special permit. I understand completely the objection raised and the notes taken, and but I do think that they already own the square footage, I think, in the past, and I think that based on my experience on the board, that yes, a second story above existing first story, I don't see that as increasing the nonconformity. I think that it's very noble and wonderful that they want to provide for their family in the future and for their special circumstances. I think this is exactly what the bylaws have been written for.
Thank you. Alex, would you like to share your wisdom with us?
Well, that'll be a short statement then, but as I said before, I am having difficulty leaning towards approving this. I think that's still the same. And having someone oppose it does not automatically mean that, you know, it goes in that direction. I've been on the board a short time, and just because someone opposes it doesn't mean it goes in that direction. And as a board, I know we appreciate when we get letters of support for these applications, and, you know, to be fair, I think it's, you know, equal weight has to be given if someone doesn't support it. So I just wanted to address that. But as I said, as the plans are drawn now, I am having difficulty leaning towards support.
Thank you, Alex. That was not short. They were good words of wisdom. I certainly have trouble disagreeing with you. So at this juncture, I would give, before we do accept a motion to conformance, I would like to give the applicant a chance to speak, and if they feel they can come back with a altered proposal, certainly we would encourage them to do that, or certainly would accept that as an option. Is to me or the Gibbs?
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I just would like to
Yes.
go by saying that everything that the board asked us to do at our last meeting, we have done. And we went over things a lot with Mrs. Toomey about what we could do in order to make this palatable for everyone. We were unaware that we needed to garner support and have people write letters in support of this. And in our neighborhood, contrary to what's been said here this evening, who do support what we would like to do. So I guess because we were unaware of all those things, we did not do that, but we did do what the board asked us to do. And we altered our drawings. My husband and Mr. Tangney and Mrs. Toomey met as we were asked. We did everything that you asked us to do. Our yard only has so much space, and I don't know what else we can do. And I know Mrs. Toomey would like to say something.
I just want to make clear, I'm sorry, since I said I didn't support it. It's not a, neighbors versus neighbors. Whoever comes up with the most neighbors in support or opposition wins. That I didn't mean to indicate that at all. And certainly nothing one way or the other, just to make that clear.
Thank you.
I think at this point, we will withdraw our entire application.
Okay. And by withdrawing completely, or would you like to continue the hearing and leave open the option of coming back with the modified plan?
I'll leave that to the Gibbs if they think that they could live with not having a second floor over the apartment. That's really up to them. I think we've had this discussion that says it doesn't meet their needs if they can't add a master bedroom with a bathroom. And so I'll ask them. It's up to them.
Let me ask, let me make this statement, and then Andrew, you tell me if I'm wrong. I think if we continue the of studying and talking about this some, and then if you decide between now and the date of the continued hearing to withdraw, you still could. Is that correct, Andrew?
That is correct.
Okay.
All right, then why don't we do that, and then I'll have a better discussion with the.
I think I think that is something that I certainly can live with if the other board members can. So based on that, unless somebody else, well, first of all, I won't close the public hearing. We'll continue the public hearing to a date future unless somebody else has something to add at this point.
I think we have to determine the date.
Yes, which right now our next meeting is October 14th, if that works for the applicants.
Sure.
What day of the week is that?
That is a Thursday.
Good. We have with no associate members and not a full board, we are constrained. So spread the word around town. We could use some more board members. So with that, I would accept an application to continue. Excuse me, a motion to continue this public hearing until the 14th of October. And do we know if that's going to be live or Zoom or hybrid?
That will be hybrid.
That will be a hybrid meeting, so more opportunity. And Mr. Latham should be done his active duty in Norfolk by that time. And maybe he'll have his beard back. Okay, so is there a motion?
I will make that motion.
Okay, thank you. And a second?
Second.
All in favor? We better go around the room. Cindy?
Yes, we can do roll
Yes.
call.
Hillary? I vote yes also. So unanimous. Thank you all for your participation. And I know there's some conflict and some strong feelings, but I want to thank each of you for being civil, being polite, and being considerate. We certainly appreciate that. And we hope the board is also, because it is a difficult situation. So thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, next on our agenda is a public meeting for $129 Green Street. So I open the public hearing for case 21-10 Zoning Board is opening this public hearing at this time, which is 8:25. At the zoning board meeting September 14th. And this is an application of Andrew Grasberger pursuant to Mass General Law 40A 59 for a special permit under Reading zoning bylaw section 7.0, 7.3, and 7.3.2, construct a two-story addition on an existing non-conforming dwelling with a non-conforming front yard setback on the property located at 129 Green Street, Assessor's Map 17, Lot 110 in Reading, Massachusetts. And if there is no objection, of the long list of abutters, but note that the appropriate departments and offices, including select board, police department, building department, fire department, town clerk, health department, engineering department, CPDC, assessor's office, and these board members have been notified, as well as the abutting towns of Wakefield, North Reading, Woburn, Lynnfield, Stoneham, and Wilmington. And again, I will ask anyone that proposes to speak to respond in the affirmative with "I do" to the following statement. So please raise your right hand and affirm this statement if you agree. I swear that the testimony given by me before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Brett, if you have anything to add or to say before we turn it over to the applicant to describe the process.
No, it looks pretty straightforward with the front setback. Nothing yet. Maybe have a couple comments afterwards.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. To the applicant, I guess, Andrew Grasberger, you're the applicant, and will you speak to the proposal?
Yes, I will.
Will you be able to share the plans, or do you want me to?
I'll be able to.
Okay.
Let me double check that. I've had some issues with sharing Zoom in the past, but yeah, it looks like I will be able to.
Sweet.
Yes, I just wanted to start off by thanking you all for your time. I'm sure you're all busy, and I definitely appreciate you taking the time to serve the community in this way. Yeah, I guess I propose I'll just go through kind of my motivation for doing this project, and then kind of talk a little bit about why I want a special variance for this. So I think you should be able to see this is kind of like the rendering of the proposal. I'll just have this up as I'm speaking. So yes, my home is kind of like the existing structure in this photograph here. I've certainly enjoyed living in it and enjoyed living in Reading. But it is an old home, so from the late 1800s. There's a few things I'd like to improve. So there's only one small bathroom on the second floor. And I'd like to make that, a little bit more updated with a powder room on the first floor, and a larger kind of, master suite type bedroom bathroom situation. And that also addresses one of the other issues too, is that although it is technically a 3-bedroom home, one of the bedrooms is quite small. Closets that more qualifies as a study than a bedroom. So just kind of their overall, I guess the third thing too is I'm also a hobbyist woodworker. So I want kind of a dedicated space where I can work on some of my projects. So I think we can see as we go through this that this will address some of those needs. And I don't think propose any, additional harm to the community by the way we're proposing to build it. Yeah, so just to get started, just talk a little bit about this view. My architect wrote down some of this stuff on the side here, but basically we're trying to keep the overall style of this, in the kind of gambrel roof style of the neighborhood, and also keeping it relatively low, so it's lower than the existing house, just so it's not going to be sticking out or just generally fitting with the neighborhood as a whole. say that to a good frame of reference as we continue to go through. So this is the first floor plan view. So this is the first place where we can kind of see what the setback issue is going to be. So we're proposing this new structure on the right-hand side here. And so we have this dashed line here, which is a 20-foot setback, but we're proposing having a 13-foot setback for this. And this is kind of where I want to talk about one of the reasons that, or kind of the reason we're needing a special permit for this project, is that my lot is a atypical shape, to say the least. And since it also is a corner lot, I actually have the larger 20-foot setbacks on 3 sides. You can only see 2 of them here, but it's like I have Green Street, Village Street, and Washington Street. And so even though this is street, I would say in some respects it's sort of like a side yard setback, because the setback on Green Street is what I think most people would consider the front yard of this property. And you can see that we've just maintained the existing non-conforming setbacks. My existing house is 13 feet and 13.5 feet off of Green Street. We propose the addition will be 13.5 feet off of Village Street. And yeah, I don't know how much more I go into details here, but this is the powder room we're gonna have on the first floor. Kind of address that need I want to add to the property and the workshop space. And it's kind of another plan view of the second floor with a bedroom, bathroom, and a deck area. And just this is some more elevation views to get a better sense of what the project will look like. So similar to what we showed before. The rear-facing view, which shows the deck and this bump out on the back of the house. I guess it's worth noting, I'm not sure if this was clear from the previous parts of the plans, that we are going to be adding a little bit on the second story, but that's over existing an existing portion of the house and doesn't change any setbacks. So I think that there shouldn't be any need to discuss that too much here. Yeah, then maybe I'll just show the plans or the survey really quickly just to show, yeah, just kind of overall view that, you know, my lot is an odd shape, and I've got the setbacks off of Green Street, Village Street, and Washington Street, in addition to these rear setbacks from the other properties. So there ends up being a pretty small area of land here that's actually buildable if we're conforming to the setbacks. Yeah, you know, I think that's what I want. But happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. With that, Hillary, do you have any thoughts or questions?
So I don't have any questions right now. Well, I guess I do have one. In the paperwork that was sent over, it says a 2-car garage on the first floor and then a primary suite up on the second floor. But your plans are showing that it's a woodworking station or a woodworking shop. So is there plans to have that like clear story be functional as a 2-car garage?
No, so that was the initial plan, and we talked to the engineering department, and we weren't allowed to build a driveway here. So we submitted this labeled from the second set, or maybe you didn't receive the second set of plans, but yeah, this won't be a garage at all.
Okay. No, I guess I didn't get the first set, but okay. And my comment would be regarding the setback is I spent a little bit of time hiking around this area, and especially where your house sits it's a very unusual lot, and I appreciate how that is very unusual, but also across the street from you, and many of the houses in this area seem to be much closer to the street than the 20-foot setback that is prescribed by our zoning bylaws. And that's the end of my comments for now.
Okay, thank you, Hillary. Cindy.
You're on mute, Cindy.
Thank you. I don't even know if this is so much within our purview, but it's just curiosity. I mean, the way this rendering looks, is that the way you're planning on making the addition look in terms of style?
More or less. I am planning on painting it white to match the existing house, which
Okay,
isn't reflected here, but yeah.
okay, just because it looks so much more modern than the rest of the house and the rest of the neighborhood.
Yeah, no, I'm planning on painting it white. Yeah.
Okay.
Cindy, I do think that is somewhat within our purview,
Yeah.
because to be compatible with the neighborhood is it's kind of an ambiguous assignment for us, but there is certainly the aesthetics is within something we can comment on.
Yeah. Okay, then I mean, is that something that you're set on? Because that's what struck me most when I first looked at it, in my opinion, just because it is so different from the style of the house. All right.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely planning on painting it pure white. It just didn't get reflected in this drawing.
Okay, but
I think-
not just the color, but just the style, the era.
Oh,
Colonial versus mid-century modern, I think.
yeah, I mean, I think the architect I was working with is a fan of that style, and I do like somewhat of a modern look too, but I think we are balancing that here. You know, I think, you know, if you wanted to go modern, could be much more severe, I guess, in terms of, you know, very squared off buildings and a lot more glass and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I guess, like, if that's something that you guys are, you know, very set on, we can potentially explore that, but I think that, you know, painted white, I think it still fits within the style of the neighborhood, in my opinion.
Anything else, Cindy?
Not right now, no.
Alex?
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, I didn't have much that hasn't already been asked or noted. The modern look is something that jumped out at me. So hearing it's at least going to be painted white, it is good. And yeah, the having, you know, matching the existing setback of your house, and then also what the neighborhood looks like. That was good to hear from Hillary. The connection between the house and the addition, is that like floor to ceiling glass?
Mostly, yeah. There's gonna be some part that's covered too, yeah, but it's gonna be predominantly glass.
That's it for now. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. I concur with what Alex and Cindy said, and I don't want to dictate, but it's hard to tell from the rendering, but it looks like the existing house is clapboard.
Yeah.
And the addition is not. It's more of vertical siding. So that I think is what, in my eye, is strikingly different. So that's something to think about anyway. But my main question, and I might be misunderstanding the drawing, but if you could go to the plot plan, the plan view, if you could scroll down to that plan view that shows.
Oh, sorry, are you not seeing that? Oh, you want the plan view?
Yeah.
Here. Okay, sorry. There you go.
Yeah, that would do.
Okay.
I generally support this, but I don't see why you cannot slide that addition. I guess it's to the south or the southeast and meet the setback, or even rotate the orientation and meet the setback. You seem to have plenty of room in the rear.
So no, actually, so this dotted line here is the required rear yard setback.
Aha, okay.
Yeah.
That just doesn't look like 20 feet, but if that is the required rear yard setback, then my suggestion is foolish, or certainly irrelevant. So again, I generally support this. I agree with my to make it a little more consistent with the neighborhood, and particularly your house would make it more or less uh, obtrusive in the neighborhood, or more consistent with the neighborhood. And I think that's all I have. So Brett or Andrew, do you have any questions or anything to add?
I personally do not. He explained the driveway situation, so.
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Any member of the public have any comments or any thoughts? Okay.
I think we should note that we received a note of at 234 Washington Street. They fully support the special permit. So
thank you so
add
much.
that to the record somehow.
Yes, thank you so much for reminding us. And along those lines, Mr. Grassberger, could you show us on that drawing where that abutter is? Because I'm a little disoriented as to where Washington Street is.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if you can see my cursor, but this little tiny corner down here, that's 234 Washington Street. So
okay.
That's the water. And I talked informally to my neighbor off the opposite side too, and they're in support of it as well. But
good. Yeah, that is an odd shaped lot, and to have three front yards is a bit unusual. Okay, public hearing, and request a motion from one of the board members to approve this application for an addition to the Green Street property.
So is this where we read the standard conditions for special permit? So I move that I've lost my script. I move to grant the petitioners, what's your name? Sorry.
Andrew Grassberger. Yeah.
Andrew Grassberger, a special permit under sections 7.0, 7.3, and 7.3.2 of the zoning. A two-story addition on an existing non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming front yard setback, and now additional front yard setback on the side at the on the lot at 129 Green Street in Reading, Mass, as shown on the certified plot plan prepared by, just a second, it's way down in here, Edward Robert Grover, a professional engineer of, where is he from? Melrose, Massachusetts.
J&B survey.
J&B survey, dated June by Robert Edward Grover, professional land surveyor and professional civil engineer. The special permit is subject to the following considerations. The petitioner shall submit to the building inspector a certified plot plan of the proposed construction and proposed foundation plans prior to the issuance of a foundation permit for the work. The petitioner's final construction plans for the new structure shall be submitted to the building inspector along with the as-built foundation plans prior to the issuance of a building permit. And the as-built plan showing completed construction shall be submitted to the building inspector immediately after the work is completed and prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit. The architectural plans don't seem to have a preparer's name on them.
It's Paul Miller.
Paul Miller.
dated August 2nd, 2020.
And there's 5 pages.
Yes.
Excellent, Hillary. Fantastic job. You get an A on making motions. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Cindy seconds. Any further discussion among the board members? Hearing none, we'll take a vote and we'll go around the room again. Alex,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
and Hillary,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. Thank you very much, Mr. Grassberger. We appreciate your presentation and your submittal, and good luck.
Thank you very much. And thanks again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Have fun making sawdust.
Yeah, will do. Thank you.
Okay. 2 down, 1 to go. I'll now open the public hearing for case number 21-13, 281 West Street. This zoning board of appeals is opening this public hearing on September 14th. The meeting started at 7, but it is now 8:45 on the application of Bill Nolan and Savoy Nolan Architects pursuant to MGL Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Paragraph 10, for variance under Reading zoning bylaws, sections 4.5.2, 6.0, 6.3, and 7.4, as may be determined by the zoning addition with a non-conforming rear yard setback on the property located at 281 West Street, Assessor's Map 15, Lot 128 in Massachusetts. And I will, for the 3rd time, dispense with the reading of the full list of abutters, but the appropriate parties, including Select Board, Police Department, Engineering Department, board members, CPDC, Town Clerk, and the abutting towns of Wakefield, North Reading, Woburn, Linfield, Stoneham, and Wilmington have been notified. Anyone wishing to speak, please acknowledge by responding "I do" and raising your right hand as I read this oath. I swear given by me before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you could take it off mute, please.
I do.
Thank you very much.
I do.
Okay. All right. With that, Brett, did you have anything to point out to the board before I turn it over to the applicants?
No, not much. Just a pretty straightforward one here too. Looking for a variance for the new nonconformity in the rear yard.
Okay.
Kind of an odd shaped lot, but that's about it.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Mr. and Ms. Raymond or Mr. Nolan, if you would like to describe the project to us.
Sure, and I will have access to share my screen with the board. Thank you. So for the record, my name is Bill Nolan of Savoy Nolan Architects. I'm here representing Keith and Kate Raymond, who are present at the meeting. They're the owners of 281. And getting late, as the building inspector or building commissioner said, this should be a pretty straightforward one. I'm gonna share my screen now. You guys able to see the assessor's map?
Yes.
You can, yes, thank you.
Okay, so 128. I think I have mine. 128 right here. This is the property right here, 128, which is 281 West Street. You can see this property at 129 right here on Fremont Street actually cuts into the back, and that's going to be basically our hardship due to the shape and topography of the land. for the plans that were submitted. You now see the site plan? Yes?
Yes.
Yep, okay, great. So this is the property at West Street. You can see this is that back chunk that was taken out. So what we're looking to do is a pretty modest addition off of the back. This piece right here, it's a single story piece. It'll house a master bedroom in this chunk over here, which by itself is conforming. And this smaller piece over here will be a dining room built off of their existing kitchen, and that will be the structure, if granted, that would require the relief. Relief we're requiring, the setbacks in the R15, S15 zoning are 15-foot rear side setbacks, 20-foot rear setbacks. Asking 15'6", which would be conforming if this were a side setback, but in this case, it's not a rear setback. I did have a conversation with Brett prior to submitting the application, just to get his interpretation and ruling on whether this line would be indeed considered a rear setback. In some towns that I've worked in, the different towns would look at this as a side setback. So I wanted to confirm that, but I agree with its decision on the code is the bylaws are pretty clear, and it says that it extends through the extent of the width of the property. So I double checked with them, but and I agree with his way he ruled it. This is the existing house here. This is kind of the front and side shot. The existing sunroom right now, that's actually quite dilapidated. We're going to be taking that down and putting in its place an addition that runs the length of the building. There's a demo plan. This shows the existing 3-season porch that will be removed. The existing house is going to remain the same. The kitchen is going to be renovated, but it's going to stay in its same location. We're in a new open concept living space. There are 3 bedrooms down here that will remain in the new master bedroom. As you'll see, this is the proposed conditions will be off of the back. So this is we're looking to maintain an access out to the rear yard, create a dining room off of the kitchen, where this is going to maintain their living space, and create a new master bedroom in the back with a bathroom and closet. This is the bring any higher. It's a single story addition. This is the master bedroom piece here, the entry door to the rear yard, and this where these 2 windows here would be the dining room. This is a side view. If you're looking from the street, this is the left side, so the master bedroom side. And the right side, this is the dining room space here, with the master bedroom peeking out beyond it. And just a 3-dimensional shot looking at the master bedroom with the dining room in the background. So our hardship here is the topography of the lot and the placement of the existing house on the lot. There's really no other place to put a dining room in here that would be conforming. Try to make it conforming, it would result in a dimension. The dining room is somewhat undersized, so we hesitate to go any lower than that because it just wouldn't function as a proper dining room at that point. There was concern by the Raymonds to not go out any further than we needed to because they wanted to preserve as much backyard as they can. The land slopes pretty significantly from the back to the front, so they have an area in the backyard here that's somewhat level. It's up quite high, and it slopes down. So this is part of the part of their yard that's flat, and they use it now as kind of like a patio space. So they were hesitant to give up too much of that. So we had a discussion to kind of find the right balance of making a functional dining room back there while preserving as much of the yard. Can make this as small as it could be. So I think without going too far into it, I'm happy to answer any other questions, but that's probably the extent of the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Raymond, do you have anything to add? Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said no, nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. I think Cindy, if you could, if you have any questions, thoughts.
I do not have any questions.
Okay, good. Hillary.
I think that this is an elegant solution to a situation. I understand that the 12-foot is very. Now you are only extending the minimal amount out toward that corner. And other than that, I don't think I have any other questions at this point.
Alex.
No questions from me either. I think this was a good solution. I like this view in particular. It was great to see what it was going to look like in the back. So I thought this one was pretty straightforward as well.
Okay. And I would agree with everything I've heard from my fellow board members. And I support this. I do just have a question more out of curiosity than anything. That lot that kind of protrudes into your lot fronts on Fremont Street, right?
Correct.
And on that property, the dwelling on that lot is much closer to Fremont Street and fairly far removed from your lot. Have you, even though we sent out a notice to them as abutters, have you talked to them specifically? Are they aware that this is going on?
Yes, I spoke to both Wayne and Lauren, the neighbors, and they're absolutely fine with it. That back corner is the far end of their yard.
Right.
They have a pool, and then it just goes to the back of the fence there. They're not disturbed by it at all.
Good. That would be my take on it, also from looking at the lot. Okay. Do we have any comment? Oh, Hillary, go ahead.
I also appreciate the research and diligence that the architect did regarding the side setbacks, because that vision has gone for a side setback as opposed to a rear setback. So I appreciate that description in your presentation.
Thank you.
All right, good. Thank you. And I would agree. It's a professionally done application. Any thoughts or questions from the public? I don't think we have anybody left. We outlasted them. Okay, hearing none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion for the application for West Street.
So this is a variance, correct?
Yes, it is a variance because it's a conforming lot currently.
So I don't have a script for variance.
Neither do I.
I have two scripts here. One is a special permit. Oh, the other is a special permit also. Sorry, Andrew, can you help us out?
Do we need a script?
I'll try to find a script quickly, but it should just be about the same motion and conditions.
Okay, so I move, I'll just try to alter this. I move to grant the petitioners, well, are they the Raymonds or Bill Nolan? Let's see.
The application was for Nolan.
So the application of Bill Nolan of Savoy Nolan Architects, a variance under sections 4.5.2, 6.0, 6.3, and 7.4.
Hillary, the script is up.
Zoning bylaws in order to construct a new single-story addition with a non-conforming rear yard setback on the property for use as a primary.
I think you captured it with the story.
Okay. On the property located at 281 West Street in Reading, Mass, with the following dimensions as depicted on the certified plot plan by Medford Engineering and Survey. Where's the variance motion?
Sorry, I was gonna pull up the plot plan.
Prepared by Keith Raymond, professional engineer. Richard R. Mead Jr., professional land surveyor. Medford, Mass, dated August 2nd, 2021, and certified by Richard Mead Jr., registered land surveyor. That's it.
That's it. I guess we would reference the architectural plans created by Savoy Nolan.
Architectural plans are by Nolan Savoy Architects, numbered 1 through 7, dated August 3rd, 2021.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you very much, Hillary. And is there a second?
Seconded.
And Cindy seconds. If no further comments are forthcoming.
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Hillary?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Thank you again for your presentation and the information, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see what else we have on our agenda.
Minutes.
We have 3 sets of minutes.
His favorite part.
Jamie,
yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So I do need to hop off. Things are getting a little busy here, but I will say I did take a look at the minutes, and I had nothing from my end.
Okay. Before you go, Cindy or Hillary, did you have any comments on the minutes?
I do. On the June 17th of 3, so right before the other business, it says, so the second paragraph before other business, it says, Mr. Redford opened the hearing to public comment. Seeing none, Mr. Mon closed the public comment. Should that be Mr. Redfern, or should Mr. Mon have opened it?
I think Mr. Redfern.
Mr.
It
Mon
should-
opened it.
Yeah.
June 17th, I think Mr. Redford
Oh,
was
Mr.
still
Redfern
there.
opened it. Yes.
Yeah.
So he closed it. Good catch.
Okay, good
Okay,
catch.
I had one more,
Mhm.
but not on that one.
Okay.
I had one.
Alice, if you can just bear with us for a minute, then we can approve all 3.
I don't think we need him to vote on the minutes.
I was gonna say.
Oh, we
I
don't?
really need to hop
No, you
off.
only need
Okay, good luck. Thanks
Bye,
for
Alex.
joining us
Thank
from.
you.
Bye.
So I had no more on that one, unless anyone else did.
I did not. So, Andrew, we don't need to approve these?
You need to vote on them, but you only need 3 members to vote.
Oh, okay. Right. They're not a variance. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Then I'll jump forward to be expeditious, and I'll make the motion that we approve all 3 sets of minutes.
Oh, I have one more on the
Okay.
17th, on the 15th of July.
Sure thing.
So it's not the, sorry, it's page 2 at the very top. It's not the Taylors, it's like Kohler, but
You know, I noticed that today and I was like, I
Well,
could have sworn that she said.
yeah,
Taylor's.
I don't even think that's exactly correct, but something like that. So hang on, let me find their application.
Should be it. 'Cause, yeah, it was Amy and Mike Kohler, and I was like, I thought she said David.
Koehler.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I was reviewing these today and was confused.
That was all. Those are my only two comments.
Okay, then I move that we approve all three sets of comments with the modifications made tonight, and those comments are June 17th, July 1st, and July 15th of this year. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. All right, we got through it. It was an interesting night, and I guess we will do. We have one application that was continued. Not so. Do we have any other applications we anticipate for mid-October?
I anticipate one more. Hopefully they can get the submission in fairly quickly so that we can advertise it next week or two. So if not, it will be the one case. And if they withdraw, I think we'll just have to meet to, we'll discuss that later if and when that happens, to vote on that. So
yeah, if we notice it, I do think we have to call the meeting to order, don't we?
I do think so, yeah. But I'll provide an update on that. So thank you for bearing with us on the October dates. I can confirm the 14th. It will be hybrid in the select board meeting room or through Zoom if you wish. We are very much going to remember, so stay tuned.
When are you going to be providing the 2022 schedule? Because I do see, if we stay on the normal Thursdays, I do see conflicts, but hopefully we'll have new members by then.
Right. Yes, that is in the works right now. Amanda and I are going to be drafting that up fairly shortly for your next meeting.
Yeah, Andrew, do you know, did we get any new applicants? I did throw somebody.
You mentioned
away.
somebody. I haven't seen
Yeah.
anybody formally
Oh, okay.
apply or be appointed.
Okay.
So we
Right.
blasted it on social media.
It could be
again.
he's waiting because he wasn't available until November, so maybe
Okay.
he's waiting until then. But
That might make sense.
But in terms of scheduling, my singing is resuming, which means I've got rehearsals in the evenings, and it's better for me to have this, the ZBA, scheduled so
Mhm.
that I can then, for Christmas, I can say I'm not available on certain days.
Okay.
So, yeah, so if we can get like
Great.
November, December squared away, that's better for me.
Yeah, for sure. I'll send some dates out ASAP to confirm and lock some down. November is tough. We have subsequent town meeting, lots of public engagement, lots of things.
What are the dates of town meeting? I forgot to write them down.
I do have them. Give me 1 second here to pull up the calendar.
I think it's November 8th, 15th, and 22nd is what I have on my calendar.
November 8th, 15th, potentially the 18th and 22nd. Yep.
Good, thank you.
So I guess for the three of you, Hillary mentioned Thursday might have some conflicts. Are there other days that might work better?
Just Thursdays are fine for me, but Mondays and
Yeah, as do I. Teach Monday and Wednesday.
Okay.
Teaching
Right, yeah.
2 courses this semester for some stupid reason.
For me, it's just a matter of knowing what it is, and then when I sign up for concerts, I just, don't sign up for those dates, so.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Stick with Thursdays if we can.
Yep.
Yeah, if we can, that would be good.
Okay.
All
I
right.
appreciate it, guys. Thank
If
you.
there's no other business, we will.
If you're interested, I can tell you that we are doing some community engagement around the 40R bylaw. There's been a lot of, as you might know, town meeting members. There's 2 instructional motions last year for us to look at some of the dimensional requirements in it in efforts to get more usable open space. And we're taking those instructional motions and giving it a more holistic view and trying to look at almost the entirety of the bylaw. Help with some community engagement on the downtown 40R. We'll be doing a survey, and we'll be doing 2 public engagement workshops that are, I guess they're more information sessions than workshops probably, kind of TBD, but those are scheduled for Tuesday, October 19th and Wednesday, November 3rd. But if you do see the survey, please do share it, take it, blast it, however you can. We really do want town-wide feedback.
And I saw that the Green Spaces is continuing on September 22nd. They have another meeting.
Green Communities, yep. So we'll be presenting. I will be on vacation that week personally next week, but there is a Climate Action Committee forum for green communities and to provide an update, and that should be pretty substantial because that will be a really good update if you're very interested in it.
Good.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Good night. Thanks for bearing with it.
Do we have to make a motion to close?
Oh yeah. Is there a motion to
Okay, say
adjourn?
good night.
Okay. Yeah. All in favor? Go home. Go to bed. Or you're already home. Just go to bed.
Bye.
Thank you guys.
Good night.
Bye. Thank you.